Hello, if you're watching this, my name is Marilyn, and today I'm doing my September wrap-up. I am fairly excited for this, although I didn't get to read so much due to homework, and I was very busy. I technically read 5 books, but 2 of them were graphic novels, and I'll just start off right away. So the first book I read this month was Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, and I really enjoyed this book. It was very funny and I loved the atmosphere around this book. I loved everything overall, and I also have a review on it on my channel. If you're interested in knowing any more of my thoughts, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, which took up a lot of time in about 2 weeks, and that was I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and I absolutely adored this book. It's probably my favorite of the year and this month, and it was really fantastic and magnificent, and I adore this book a lot. And I also have a review on this book because I couldn't pry away from actually doing one, so I did it for this book as well. And I highly recommend you read this book if you haven't already. I also gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and it's so good. And the next book I read was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I had never picked up The Outsiders before, so I decided to give it a try. I believe it's a banned book, so I read it for Banned Books Week. I definitely enjoyed this novel. I mean, if you're 16 and you're writing a novel and you got yourself published at 18, that's pretty darn good. So if you're not aware, The Outsiders is about a group of greasers who like to hang out, and they're very close to each other, like family, and then they usually get jumped or beat up by socks, who are a gang who like to beat up greasers. And one night, something happens between the two groups and it picks up from there. And I gotta say, this is pretty good for a 16-year-old who wrote this at the time, and I did enjoy it and I could relate to the characters, especially Johnny, but I found it pretty bland. It wasn't so amazing, although it did make me very sad at the end. And I will say that it picked up around there. That's when I started to feel all those emotions, and that's what really allowed me to give this a better rating to this book, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And I think if I reread it again, I could probably enjoy it. And then the last 2 books that I read were graphic novels, and like I mentioned in my TBR, it's Maus Volume 1 and Maus Volume 2. They're both about World War II, and the story follows Art Spiegelman, I believe the author, and he's asking his father, who was a Holocaust survivor, to tell him the story of what it was like in Germany during World War II at the time, in the concentration camps, and his life before and his life during that time. I found these very interesting, although I gave the second volume a higher rating because I felt that was more interesting, and it was very gruesome the way it was described how prisoners were treated, and it's really horrible how they were treated, and it makes you kind of realize the things humans do to each other. It's pretty terrible. I like World War II stories because they're very interesting, but it's also very bad to hear about all the bad things that people have done to each other, and it's really upsetting. These graphic novels are very good, and I enjoyed them, although it did take me some time to read them because I was really busy, and even though graphic novels are really easy to read, it took me forever. But I'm finally glad I got to read them because they're very interesting, and it's a bit hilarious. The books have some humor to them and also some seriousness to them, and they're pretty good for graphic novels. I really enjoyed them. So those are all the books I read for this month. I know it's quite short because I didn't have so much time to read everything, and I really wish I had read more. I had about 2 more books on my list, but hopefully I will read those in October. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.